Hey Notioneers, this is Dara with a new video for you. So normally I don't freelance. I'm pretty busy between my job and my hobbies and my family that I don't have time left for freelancing. But every now and then I do have a great opportunity come my way. And these are usually in the form of doing exchange of services. So I do have some work that I need done, and rather than trying to figure out how to come up with the money to pay for the work, it's actually quite expensive. Instead, we've come to an agreement of exchange of services. They just had a new website they launched, and I'm going to be doing some work to review whether their hypothesis, because until you put something in front of the people who are going to use it, everything you've done is just a hypothesis. It's theory that it's workable. So I'm going to go ahead and do some work to make sure that their website is working as intended, and then coming up with any kind of remediation work they need done. So in order to do this, we've come to terms on like the level of effort for each sort of task stream that I've been working on, I will be working on. And we've agreed to having a weekly report that shows the work that I've done, plus 24/7 access to that work. So I want to create something that is going to be easy to navigate, and of course it's got to meet those requirements of that weekly report. And then I also want to use some of the new things that Notion has been adding over the last little year in order to make this happen as automatically as possible. So I will be looking at the repeating database template, which is a very new feature. I will be using the ABI to connect my Notion to Google Sheets in order to do some of the math for me that Notion can't do. And then I'm going to have a client dashboard, an admin dashboard, and I'm going to be looking at Figma for just designing some header and icon space, and then a couple widgets. So let's dive in and get started. And of course, I'm going to create my first database here. And this one is going to be the task table. I like to do this, kind of put something before the name of the table, because I have a million tables called task, and if they're all just called task, I wouldn't be able to know the difference between them. So I do try to prefix my table names. And for the task, we're going to have first the tags, which are going to be what area that I'm working on. Okay. And then just so when we're working with the monthly report, we have some data here. Let's just put some task that I was doing. All right, so we'll need to know the date that I worked on that. The time spent. And then last, the value. So I have to say they've updated the way that you grab your properties. So first of all, notice that everything's kind of consolidated at the side, which is nice. But also now you can search for the property you want. And I have to say that I have kind of a love-hate relationship for this, because I love that you can now search, like you saw how fast it was for me to grab a formula, especially as they're adding more and more property types. But the issue I have is that I'm self-trained to write the name of my property and then look for the property type. So I often am, going against the grain here. So I just have to retrain myself, and then I'm sure I will fully love, that functionality. So so the formula is simply just the time times the time multiplied by the rate, and that gives me that first table. So let's go ahead and just backdate some of these activities. And 2 hours, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and, not add another row, but show the sums here. Okay, so that does it for our first table. Just give ourselves a little bit more space here. Although we can also condense these a bit. I'm gonna tuck the task table because I don't really need to see the task table. It's gonna be in the report. So I'm gonna tuck this table into the engine area. And I'm also going to tuck my admin dashboard. Right. So in terms of like seeing pages, seeing tables, there's nothing that they can't see on the table view. There's nothing they can't see on a page view. However, there are going to be some things that I don't want them to see within the tables, and I'm going to show you how that's going to come about in a second. First, let's go ahead and create the pages that we need. All right, and then we're going to create an ad. We're going to go ahead and move this into the admin dashboard. So they'll have rights to see the admin dashboard, but the dashboard, there'll be some things on the dashboard that I'll be able to see that they can't see. But the dashboard in general, if they go there, like, I don't care. That doesn't matter. There's some permissions issues still that Notion needs to work out, and until that's worked out, like, they can see the page. All right, so we're going to create our next table. Database. I love that we now have tables, but again, my mind is trained to think that databases are tables. And I have to remind myself that is no longer the case. All right, so here all we need to have is the name, and then in this case we do type the name first because it already exists. And now I can search for the property. Okay. And this is going to be at the top of their page. Let's just add some space here. And then we're going to add our persona table here. And it's a new database that we're going to be calling 8 personas. We don't need the created by date, so I'm going to delete that property. I want to show the small card, and I want it to be the side peek. I'm loving the side peek view. It allows you to like work with, the page while still seeing the underlining thing. And you can still do things over here. It doesn't close automatically. So for instance, let's go ahead and add our persona image. I'm obviously not going to build out the personas. It's going to be way too much for this time. But see how it's not really positioned right? I can come over here and reposition without having to close this page. So that's a great add. I'm going to use one of the new number capabilities. So this is going to be like social score. And this is how well their networked socially. And I'm going to say, let's say 75. They've got a good social following. This is a perspective. And we're going to change this property to text. Okay, so now this is going to be Lynn. Her social score is 30. She hasn't quite built a network yet. And then last it's going to be Kayla. And Kayla is our superstar, in terms of social. She's very well networked, both in who she, how many people follow her, as well as how many people she follows. Just lots of conversation going back and forth online. So that's just to show you an example of like how you can use that new number functionality. Of course, I can come in and put all the metadata that I need to follow and have that, on as part of the card. And mostly I'm using this like space to hold the information for the personas, and then I'm gonna come back and do actual like actual photo persona layout, and have some really nice persona cards that they can print out and use, put up, pin up, whatever they want to do with it. Okay, but this is the area where now I don't want them to see all these personas. Filtering the view won't do any good. So like here's our guest count, and you see that they can also like filter. So they can't change the view. So if you see here like all the properties for the table, they can't change the view. They can't change like if I say like they can see the social, for instance, and the tag. So they can't change that. They don't have the rights to get in, but they can filter. And so this is actually a permissions issue. I cannot lock down the table in a holistic way that would stop them from seeing information. So if you have multiple clients, you don't want to have their work in the same table, because they'll be able to see everything you have here. So it's not the way that we want to do things. So instead, on a small table like this one, I can take a use of page level permissions. And so here I'm just going to simply say, I'm in Lucy's view. So here I'm simply going to say that like Lucy cannot see this. Okay, I'm restricting her access. Now I can just restore with just a click, right? Which is nice. But Lucy can't see this. So now if you come over, you'll see that Lucy does not have the ability to see that other persona. And this I need because in the LOE that we created, we gave time for one persona, but one persona to me just doesn't make sense on its own. You need to have at least 2 or 3 to be able to make conclusions about how your user groups are different. So I'm going to do free of charge, outside of hours, 2 other personas. Just, I'll have that information by the time I'm finished with doing the surveys and the investigative reviews, that I can throw them together pretty quickly, throw their points together. So again, now they can just see the one, even though I have all 3. So I'll just be at the end of the project, be like, and here's some other things that you can have. All right, so I want to, for layout purposes, so this is a new add, is that you can now restrict your columns as an advanced block. So instead of having to create columns the way we used to, which is dragging things around in different ways, you can just simply go to an empty thing and say like, yeah, I want 2 columns. This is really crucial for working with databases, because you can't move anything side by side to the database. You have to create the column first and move the database in it. So it's just really helpful to have that ability to have a block that already creates the columns. It's not wanting to let me select these. Here we go. Okay, and then this is just their link to get to those pages. So can I copy? Let's see if I copy this to the admin dashboard. Yeah. Well, I created the sync block. That's fine. That's not what I intended to do, but it works. Am I still missing? Yeah, that works. Okay, that's not what I intended. I intended to create a quick link to each page, but the sync block works perfectly well as that works well too. Okay, so on the admin view, I'm just going to go ahead and put here my 2 columns again. If you just type 2 calls, that's the other way to get it. I want this to be here. I want full width. want to do 2 sync blocks here. And the first one is just going to be the total project hours, total value. The second block it's weird because these are all like sync databases, so you can't, whatever. You can't get straight to what you want there. We're going to leave those alone for now and move this here. And then just so that I also have the personas and reports in that admin view. See the title. And again, they also don't need to see the title. So if I hide the title, that's something else. They don't have the ability to go in and kind of show the title. Let's do it up here, since I smushed that database down. So yeah, so they don't have the ability to show the title. So it means that they don't know the name of the base database, which I guess could be useful. All right, so let's work now with, did I put the report in the admin dashboard? Let's do that first. All right, so I'm no longer interested in this client dashboard for now. It's gonna build as it is. I mean, obviously we're gonna come in and take out all these requirements and make it prettier, but now I can just stay. I've got everything I need over here, so I'm gonna stay in this view. And I'm going to work on this weekly report. So I'm gonna create a new template. And I could have, before I gone in there, just grab this database. I want it to look like an invoice. And then a copy of this block. And I want a copy of this block. I'm going to make it 2 columns just to condense the information. Okay, because I am going to give it some color behind these on the line. Let's make this one different. Let's make this blue. Okay, so now if we go back in here, we can see that that picked up that color. All right, and I could put some icons here or something to make it cute. I'm not going to go that far. But what I do want to do is that, let's remove these empty columns. I do want to make it so that this is the default instead of the empty. Now what's cool here is that this new default, so this is a new add to the database templates. You can assign it to just the singular view or to all items in this table. So if I had like a report view, if I had like maybe there was like a meeting, so meeting notes, whatever, then I could have different templates that go with this. But of course, for this purpose, I'm going to do it for everything. So anytime I create a new thing, it automatically, as you will see, it automatically uses that template. So that means that now when I go and do my weekly report, all I have to do is pull these two values, the sum of the time and the sum of the value, and put them here, and then filter for the appropriate, the appropriate week. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do to make this happen magically is that I'm going to use this other new ability they have, which is to repeat. Right? This is awesome. I love this. So everybody who's wanted to have the ability to repeat tasks, for instance, you would just create your task as a table. Like let's say it's your daily review or your weekly review or whatever. You can create it as a as a database template, and then have it just automatically repeat. So I'm going to say this repeats every 1 week, and it's going to start this Saturday. That's fine, but it's going to repeat on Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, so every Sunday morning it's going to create this report, and then all I have to do is come in and, as I said, pull these two values up here and filter by the date that I want to include, right? So that's going to be like from Sunday, date is within Sunday to Saturday. Boom. Save for everyone. Now, of course, again, they can unfilter this, but why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. This is that report. Come in here to that view here. Here's the latest report, and of course they can. Oh, interesting. They cannot print it, so I will have to be able to give them a PDF version. I might automate that in the future. I had actually not checked that functionality for myself, so I might automate that in the future because I do want to have exportable PDFs. So I might automate creating the PDF and then placing the PDF on the invoice as well. Like, just like a little download link here at the bottom. All right, so that creates the majority of the work that we need to do for the databases where you've seen we built the admin dashboard. There's really nothing else from an administrative function that I need to do here. This is going to be my view. I'm actually going to favorite this view so that it shows up, in my favorites. I might, it just says admin dashboard. I could even create it for like, give it the name, right? So now I can quickly see my dashboard here. When I do my icons, that'll be there as well. But this is the space that I want to work in because I know that by working in here, everything that needs to happen is going to show up properly on the client side. So let's look now at the next things that we have to do, which is figuring out this information using Notion to Sheets. So this is Notion to Sheets. Sorry if that's really bright. I don't know how to change it to dark mode. I really like working in dark mode, so it actually is, for those of you watching climate change, it is more an efficient use of your electricity if you work using dark mode on all your screens. But anyway, so you come here, it's Notion to Sheets. I just have the pricing page pulled up. What's really nice is this personal, one Notion workspace, one database, one table. That's all I actually need for this. Six synced columns, 6 reoccurring tasks, 6 synced cells, and we're going to be using the cells, and then updates every 6 hours. And that's really all I need for this to work. So when I put that Sunday report, they're going to be looking at that Monday. So anything that I've done, through Sunday night, by the time they see it Monday morning, it's going to have the latest updates. That's all I need for this. So you want to click this install add-on. It opens up, you know, like the Google web, you know, marketplace, and you just install. I am using a Google Apps account, so I do have the ability to install it for everybody. But I just installed it for my one singular use. So now when I come to Google Sheets, I will see there is now this new plugin here on the side that's Notion to Sheets. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I've already connected my database. Let's see. I want to show you from the beginning. So I'm going to remove the database. So when you open it up, this is what you'll get. It'll say add your workplace. So I just add my workspace. I need to give it permissions to where I'm working on. Oh, I need to be logged into the account. So I've been using, in order to show you the permissions, I've been using Lucy's account, and Lucy does not have rights to Sandbox. So it's really important that you are logged in as the right user. So let me go and fix that real quick. Okay, so I am now supposedly logged in as Notion Diva. There I go. And I'm going to go ahead and pick the Sandbox account. And I want to use my freelance life. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click next this connect database. And then I want to take a link, a copy of the database link that I want. So I want this task table. Let's copy that link in. And view database. Okay, so it shows the values that I'm expecting to see here, the created date. It's giving me a page ID. So it's taking that date field that I had and using that as the create and update, which is interesting. Okay. And there are the values that we need. So of course, like this page ID is something it's creating here. We don't need to worry about that field. We can even hide it if we want to. And it's added like this icon value, which again, we don't really need these columns. We can hide them. We're not going to remove them because the API needs that information to sync back and forth, so we're not going to remove it, but we are going to go ahead and just hide it for the moment. All right, and let's just call this like 8 dashboard. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to add some values to sync back. So okay, before I start, like, I'm going to use a really simple use case here, but like you can do some fancy stuff. So if I wanted to take these numbers and like run some other formulas, like for instance, right now, you know that Notion can't look above and below a single line to do the calculation. So if you're trying to do some really, cool calculations where you need to see like multiple lines, you can add another column here that does that work for you. And then that column will sync back to your Notion space. Okay, so that's a really good use for this. There's so many things. Like for instance, I have a products table where I want to calculate all of the items that I individually put in. So this, for my herbalism. So for instance, if I put in like elderberry and then I put in honey, like I want to know how much the value of each thing is, but then I need the total value, and then I needed to do the math to say, well, if I bought a full thing of honey, but what is the one unit measurement of that honey? If I bought a full thing of elderberry, what's the 1 unit measurement of the elderberry? And then take all those measurements and saying this is the cost of a single serving of that elderberry, so that I can do the math to figure out how much I should charge for it. Anyway, that's an aside, but just so you know, you could be using this for that type of functionality if you really want to get really fancy. But I'm just going to come over here, and this sheet is going to be my totals. Okay. And for this first one, I want to have the total value of what's here. So I'm going to say this equals sum, and then I'm going to grab this column. Okay, and you can see so far it's 1800, and I'm just going to rename this like did I take the, yeah, I took the amount, so I'm going to rename this like value. Okay, and then I'm going to do the next one, same thing, equals sum, parenthesis, and then I'm going to take the time. Oops. And I'm going to say time. Okay, and then the other things that I want here is the I should call these what they are so I remember. So I'm going to put value, time, and then I'm just going to move this, switch these columns around. All right, this is going to be the original. I'm just going to call it invoice because for the moment, for some reason, I can't type original. And then remaining. All right, and so here I'm going to again put this as original. There's a reason I'm naming these cells, and then you'll come to see this in a minute. Okay, so the remaining is going to be equals this value minus this value. Pretty straightforward. And this is going to be okay, let's give that a little bit more space. And then I want to do the same thing here, equals what's the term I used here? Reimbursement. Oh. Not plus, but and. There we go. All right, so these are now the blocks that I want to sync. So for here, I want to take this one and I want to add a synced cell. And I want to go to this total project hours. There. And now if we go look, that block is updated. Oh, but I didn't do the label version. So we want to do that as well here. We don't want to use the value. We want to use the value label. Okay, so we want to go ahead and put like total value the same thing that we did before, but we're, I didn't put the labels in, so we're going to add that. Okay, and we want the time label. All right, so let's go and change this first. Instead of being the value, and actually I hadn't meant for it to be, I didn't name these fields. Let's see, this is total. Since I use value, I now have to use a dash. Oops. I mean, no dash, I have to use one word. Total value, and let's do total time. All right, so let's go back over here. So I want this, instead of being the value, I actually wanted it to be the total time. Why is it not seeing this cell range? Let's go back out. Okay, so total time. And I want to go ahead and put that link. And then I just want to test that connection. And boom. Oh, wait. I have a dollar value because I put dollar for some reason. That's me. Oops, but I want a space. Okay. And I want to put and hours. Oops, in quotes. Okay, let's test that again. All right, so total time spent 6 hours. And of course, now if we go into our report, we will see that is now there. Boom. So that's pretty much like how I'm going to sync these values. So I'm going to go in and quickly add the rest, and then we'll move on to our next task. I'm going to show the other one because I did forget to show you how I saved that happening. So let's add just another one so we can see that that works. So we're going to add a sync cell, which is, so you can't actually edit. You'll notice you could just delete. So here we're going to do the total value. Let's grab that block. And just so it's clear, after I'm pasting in, I hit the return key so that it can refresh. And then I'm going to test that connection. And boom. There it is. And then I can go ahead and go away, little warning sign, and add the sync cell. So that's what adds it to the list so that it can do that. So now what's going to do is anytime this information changes, every 6 hours is going to change all of my information across the board for any of the thing that I do to the table. So if I add more rows to the table, it's going to sync the database, and then of course it's going to sync all these sync cells. All right, so just to quickly recap, so I've got these two sync blocks. These are syncing with my Google Sheets to get these values here. And if I add more task to my task table, then it's going to go ahead and do all the math necessary to to keep track of these values. And then of course in my weekly report, as I go, it's going to update this. So now keep in mind that this is going to show the hours. Like if I have, this week's report, it's going to have my hours and then the total Next week's report will have my hours and the totals, but if I go back to the previous week report, this is always going to show the most recent amount. So it doesn't matter which they're looking at, it's going to show the most recent amount. But this is a good way to just kind of keep the running totals going. And so all I have to do when this report is created on Sundays is go ahead and filter it for the week. All right. So that's pretty much the entire system. The rest is now just kind of making it look nice. So I am going to go ahead and delete all of this. I would actually name this for the name of the project, right? And then I can tuck this away. And so this is what my client's going to see. I mean, obviously they can come in and see these things, but it doesn't matter. It's the same information they'll see in their view, so there's no reason for them to come off here. But if they do, it doesn't matter. That's okay. And of course, they're not going to be able to see these two personas as you saw. They're just going to see this one. So let's make it look nice. So first, I'm going to use I'm going to use Figma for this, and I'm using two different things I found out in the community. So the first one is this free Notion style scribbles. I will put the link in the show notes for this. And the second is I'm going to use this Notion cover design template, which I think is really nice because what she's done is that whatever you do in these symbols, they show you how it's going to end up looking in the page view. So it's very handy for when you're trying to plan out what you've done. So I've gone ahead and I put in my designs. And so for the page, I'm going to hide her stuff, and I just added that. So that's going to be my header. And then for my icon, I'm going to use that. So now all I have to do is export these. So export as a PNG. And export the icon. And now just add that here. So I'm going to upload. There. And now we have a very usable space. This is what it would look like in each kind of small breakpoint. And you see that that works really well, actually. I mean, you know, I could do some work and move my title over a little bit, but, you know, mostly they're going to be looking at it on desktop view. And so now I've got a really nice dashboard for them to see, and they can go in and you know, get their weekly report, see how their work is building out, and boom, we're done. So we have, oh no, there is also, I forgot about the widgets. We were going to add some widgets. So let me go in. And the widget that I wanted to add is that when I'm doing this weekly report, I just want to put a calculator in here. So let me grab that and put that in. All right, so this site has some pretty cool widgets on it, and I will put the link in the show notes. What I really like though is this like basic calendar. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the link address for that. This is the URL I want. Okay. And I'm gonna create another 2-column here. All right, so this is helpful because now when I do that weekly report, if there is any math that I want to do, I mean, I've made it so I don't have to do math. Google's doing the math for me. But if I wanted a calculator for any purpose, like maybe I'm just calculating I don't know what I'm calculating. Having the calculator, you can see that it's still useful here. even when I'm looking at this view. So if there's some other mathematical equations that I need for what I'm doing for that particular week, I have that available to me. So to keep track of my time, I'm going to add this stopwatch here. It's pretty handy. And so let's go ahead and it's kind of big. I might be able to find a better one for myself, but it's useful. Oh, actually it does shrink down pretty small, and look at that. It does dark mode. Gotta love it. All right, so now I can just go ahead and hit start, and then when I'm finished working, I could hit pause, and this will tell me exactly how much time I've spent on the task. And with that, that ends this particular build out. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and especially with some of the new abilities that I've given it to do. And hopefully now things are, once I finish this freelance project, I will have time to come back and dedicate to all of you out there again. But hopefully this was a good interim project to see. All right, you take care, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.